In 2023, Magic Kingdom at the Walt Disney World Resort opened Tron Light Cycle Run in Tomorrowland. And with this brand new attraction, the Walt Disney World Resort has opened 10 brand new rides since 2017. Since I got to visit the resort in 2023 and catch up on the brand new rides, including Ratatouille, Guardians Cosmic Rewind, and of course Tron, I figured it would be a fun idea to rank the newest rides at the Walt Disney World Resort. Let's just recap what Disney World has opened in the last few years. In 2017, Animal Kingdom opened Pandora, the World of Avatar, which included the flying simulator, Flight of Passage, and the short boat ride, Na'vi River Journey. In 2018, Hollywood Studios opened Toy Story Land with Slinky Dog Dash and Alien Swirling Saucers. In 2019, Galaxy's Edge opened with Millennium Falcon, Smuggler's Run, and of course, Star Wars Rise of the Resistance. 2020 was Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway at Disney's Hollywood Studios. 2021 was the second trackless dark ride in a row with Remy's Ratatouille Adventure at Epcot. 2022 was the first roller coaster at Epcot with Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind. And of course, 2023 was Tron Light Cycle Run at Magic Kingdom. So we're going to rank all 10 of these attractions from 10 to 1. Starting off at number 10, I feel like this is clear cut for anyone who's ridden all of these attractions. It is Alien Swirling Saucers. This ride isn't bad by any means, but it's by far the smallest in terms of scale. It's just a fun family ride that kind of fills out the attraction lineup in Toy Story Land and in Hollywood Studios as a whole. Like, this feels like a modern carousel pretty much, because the laterals that you feel when the vehicles switch rotating tables or whatever they're called, it's actually pretty fun. Like, this ride is also at California Adventure in the form of Mater's Junkyard Jamboree, and I loved that ride as a kid. Like, it's pretty fun, and it's also pretty fun here. I also appreciate that it has a covering so that it can stay open in the rain. And honestly, the music that it plays is kind of nostalgic with like the Pizza Planet sort of vibe. I love the Toy Story movies, and I love Toy Story Land as a whole, so I just appreciate the atmosphere. But usually I would skip this ride because, again, it is a clone of a family ride that I have at California Adventure, which is far closer to me. And it's not really worth taking time out of your day at Hollywood Studios with that stacked ride lineup. But yeah, this ride is not bad at all. It's actually really fun. Moving on to number 9, this is our first dark ride, and it's probably the smallest scale of Walt Disney World's newest dark rides. It is Na'vi River Journey. This thing is just too short. Like, that's the bottom line. That's the criticism it always gets. Like, you basically have to wait an hour if you want to experience this attraction. It's gonna be an hour wait at minimum, maybe more, because the boats are so small, so it's not the highest capacity thing. When I first rode it, I was like, it's kind of like Jungle Cruise, because you're like voyaging through a fictitious rainforest, but it's not funny like Jungle Cruise because there's no skipper. So it's like Jungle Cruise without the skipper, but in the form of a dark ride. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that analogy anymore, but that's what I said back in the day. But for example, in 2023, I only got a couple hours at Animal Kingdom, and I did not ride Na'vi River Journey. Obviously, the highlight of this ride is the Na'vi animatronic at the end, but that's like it. Pretty much. Like, the atmosphere is fun, the music is cool. It's just too short, and it has one animatronic. Like, that's wild. Like, look at Pirates of the Caribbean or Haunted Mansion or so many other staple Disney dark rides. They have like dozens of animatronics, and this ride has one. Like, yeah, it's really impressive, but it's one animatronic, dude. I think a ride experience definitely needs more than one, even though the quality of that animatronic is through the roof. But yeah, the lighting in here is really cool. It's super detailed, but it's just too short, man. Like, it feels like it's missing a drop into the second half of the ride where the animatronics should be. Like, it does kind of over rely on screens, but the way that it blends screens with practical effects is really cool. Overall, it's a decent supporting dark ride at Animal Kingdom, but like, you know, what happened to the rest of it? Moving on to number 8, this is the first roller coaster on this list. It is Slinky Dog Dash. This ride is very tame, very, very tame. In 2023, I also only had a couple hours to kill at Hollywood Studios, and I did not ride Slinky Dog Dash. Like, usually when I spend a whole day at Hollywood Studios, this is definitely a priority. You know, like, you have to ride it once. But it is also like incredibly popular because since it is so tame and it's in the Toy Story land, like pretty much anybody can ride it, which I feel like is why it's so popular. And it is very visually appealing. It's fun just to watch this ride. The trains are amazing, but the ride experience is boring. I gotta be honest. Like it's pretty meh. There's nothing really special about it. What's funny is, like, as a roller coaster nerd, like if you took that run of Airtime Hills like 10 miles an hour faster, like this ride would probably be extremely intense. But you crawl over those hills. You don't get any sort of forces. It's almost comical how slow you crawl over that camelback after the second launch. It's crazy how it like barely inches over that hill. So in terms of ride experience, there's not that much here, but in terms of visuals, it's very cute. It's very, very cute. And it is pretty fun. Plus the Wheezy animatronic at the end is pretty cool. And it's just so much fun to watch. Like, if I grew up with this ride close to me, I would probably love this thing. But since it's relatively new and on the other side of the country from me, I don't really have any sentimental attachment to it. It's cute. It's fun. I feel like it's a more complete ride experience than Navi River Journey, which is why it ranks ahead of it. And of course, I'd rather ride Slinky Dog Dash than Alien Swirling Saucers. Plus, it's great that Hollywood Studios got another roller coaster other than the old Vekoma that I kind of hate now. But let's move on to the first ride at Epcot, which is Remy's Ratatouille Adventure. I actually have a unique perspective to bring to this ride because I first rode the attraction in 2022 at Disneyland Paris at Walt Disney Studios Park. And at that time, I only got one ride, and it was in like the back car, and I was not very impressed. Like, I could tell that Rise of the Resistance and Runaway Railway, they were both better, which makes sense because they are the updated iterations of the Trackless Dark Ride. This is kind of the OG Trackless Dark Ride in Paris, and they got a clone of the original at Epcot. Like, it fits in at Epcot, but at the same time, it's just not on the level as the other two Trackless Dark Rides, as we'll talk about later. But in 2023, I got 2 rides in on the version here at Epcot, and I walked away a lot more impressed than I did in Paris. I feel like this ride caters to the front car. So if you're the first rat to go into the ride, you're gonna have the best experience. Like, I feel like the splashing effects with the champagne glass at the end and the tomato that gets shoved under the counter during the ride, like those hit in the front car. I didn't get that in the back. Also, in the back car, you can see the screen reset, which totally feels like sub-Disney. Like, that's not something you should see at a Disney park, in my opinion. Plus, of course, this ride kind of retells the story of the movie, which isn't the best. The highest quality Disney rides tell their own story, or are their own thing, even if it uses characters from a movie. And this ride, it kind of just retells the story of the movie, which doesn't really make sense in the context of the movie, because Chef Skinner gets kicked out of the restaurant, but he's still there, even though Linguini is friends with Remy, and he helps us throughout the ride, so it doesn't make the most sense. My favorite practical effect in this ride is probably the wheels during one of the scenes. They roll in sync with the action on the screen, which is pretty cool. Also, there are 2 screens where it's like, that's all it is. Like, most Disney rides blend screens with the show scene. Like Navi River Journey, as I was talking about earlier, like it blends screens really well into the set that it has. But there are 2 screens on this ride where it's basically just a room with a screen, and it looks kind of bad. It looks like a Universal ride where you can see the bottom of the screen where the trackless floor meets the screen. Like, that's just weird. It happens twice, which is just random and bizarre, but it is much more complete than Navi River Journey. It feels like a full ride experience. The practical sets are more impressive in my opinion, even though the lighting on Navi River Journey is cool. But I would put this in like the same tier in terms of quality as like Slinky Dog Dash. Like, it's fine, you know? It's a solid ride. It's not like top tier for Disney, but it's something to do at Epcot, which is something that park needed. Like, just a solid dark ride for that park to have. Moving on to number 6. This is Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run. This is the first attraction that's going to be a little difficult to talk about because we have a clone here at Disneyland in Anaheim. So I know this ride a lot better than Remy's, Slinky Dog, Navi River Journey, and I guess I know Alien Sporting Saucers, but you know, it's a kid's ride. Anyway, Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run is a mixed bag, and I could probably make a full separate video talking about the many, many problems this ride has. When this ride opened in California in 2019, I went in expecting Flight of Passage, because when I rode Flight of Passage in 2018, I was blown away, and we're going to talk about that later. So I went into this ride expecting a ride on the level of Flight of Passage, and it is nowhere near Flight of Passage. As you can tell by its ranking, it is down here at number 6. After years of riding it, it kind of feels like an arcade game. Like, I gotta be honest. Like, it doesn't feel like you're piloting the Millennium Falcon when you're piloting on this ride. It feels like you're piloting the Millennium Falcon's cockpit. You'll go through these little narrow edges, and if you watch the Star Wars movies, you know, or if you see the giant Falcon out front, you know that the cockpit is like on the right wing of the ship, but it doesn't feel like you're attached to a ship when you're on the ride. It just, like, you go past these things and like the rest of the ship would have been like crushed, but you just blitz right past it because it's only the cockpit there. It doesn't feel like you're flying the Falcon. It feels like you're flying the cockpit. Like in the movies, it plays with the angles that it can flip at. Like, it's like pretty much a giant pancake, but on the ride, I don't even know how you would like communicate that there's a rest of the ship there, but the ride fails at it. Like, it feels like you're flying a 6-person pod. So there's that. And this ride desperately needs other missions. Like, I am so tired of the mission that it has. Like, Star Tours is still getting new missions in the 2020s, which I don't even know why. Like, they should be investing that time into making new ride films for Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run. Especially since when this ride was announced, they told us we'd get 3. And apparently this ride was so problematic that they could barely open 1 in time. And it's been years and we never got the other 2. So this ride desperately needs more ride films. Plus, a lot of Walt Disney World guests only get to ride this ride like once, and like they might be assigned engineer. An engineer is boring. I feel like this ride fits in a lot better at Disneyland where people get to re-ride, because most of that park's clientele is locals compared to the tourists here at Walt Disney World. There's absolutely no difference between the two attractions. So if you get to visit Disneyland frequently and then you get to go to Hollywood Studios, this might be a ride worth skipping. Exactly the same as the ride at Disneyland. Like, there are no differences. As I said, I could totally dig in depth with this attraction, and I probably will one day, but we gotta move on to the next attraction on the list, which is number 5, Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. This ride basically opened right before the pandemic shut down, and so I watched the POV of it in 2020 thinking I wouldn't be able to ride it, and then of course I actually got the opportunity to ride it later that summer. And this ride basically taught me you should not judge an attraction by a POV, because I watched it, I thought it looked slow and boring. I thought that the slow moving ride vehicles like totally contradicted the fast-paced energy of the Mickey shorts that this ride was based on. But no, dude, this ride kicks. It is amazing. I have a full separate video digging into it. It's more catered to the version that just opened at Disneyland Resort, but it's basically the same ride as the one at Hollywood Studios. And man, this ride is awesome. It has a very strong emotional core with Mickey and Minnie. Like, the Nothing Can Stop Us Now, that picnic scene, like that hits. Dude, that hits emotionally, and it's very rare for a ride to do that to me. Like, that's crazy. Plus, it has a very impressive pre-show, and overall, it's just such a fun ride, and the trackless ride vehicle totally matches with the cartoon energy of this attraction. It's perfect. This is absolutely a modern classic for Disney. It is so good, and I'm so grateful we got a clone of it here at Disneyland, because man, this ride is so much fun. Like, this is how you use screens in an exciting way. It's just so engaging and it's so much fun. But once again, if you want to hear more of my thoughts on this attraction and if you want to hear me rank the scenes, go check out that video that I made about the Disneyland version of this attraction. Moving on to number 4, this attraction was actually very hard for me to rank. It is Tron Light Cycle Run. As a roller coaster nerd, and as a Disney fan, it's very hard to rank Disney coasters because as a Disney fan, I look at it very differently than from a roller coaster fan. Because like, if I put on my coaster enthusiast glasses and look at it through that way, like, it's a relatively tame ride. It's pretty short. It does have a couple of floater moments, but other than that, the forces weren't that impressive. Maybe the launch was actually really solid, but other than that, it is alright. But as a Disney fan, that launch sequence, it's like art, dude. Like, that's like straight up, that was amazing. Like, that like hit in the feels, that made me feel like I was here, you know, like I am there. You know, it took years for this ride to open, and that's been very well documented. But like, holy cow, dude, it felt like I was there and I was here to experience an attraction that I have been waiting to experience for years. It made me feel that, you know, it's like, this is gonna happen here and now. Like, you know, like I've felt that on rides like Velocicoaster, you know, so to feel that on Tron was really cool. Like, okay, this is gonna happen, you know, this is real. I love rides that make you feel that way, you know? It's like, this is real, this is gonna happen. I don't even know how to put it into words. It just feels like this is a big deal, you know? And that launch sequence, that might be the best launch sequence, like, in the world, that I've ridden, at least. Like, it's so thematic, it's so cool. The visuals are just so breathtaking, and I love how the pre-show, like, shows you that room as a train is launching. And then, of course, you have the queue that wraps around it, so you can like watch it. That was super cool too. And I love the seating on this ride. Like, I thought it would be similar to like Flight of Passage or Pony Express, the Zamperla motorbike coasters, but no, you lean a lot further forward than it looks like. Like, it's almost like an entirely different position, which is wild. And I got to ride this thing in the front row, and that was so cool. I wish I got to try it out in the back, but I was assigned row 3 on my second ride, so hopefully I get to try it in the back someday soon, because it seems like the visuals seem to cater more towards the back, which is funny because on Runaway Railway, the visuals totally cater towards the front car. So it's interesting to see the difference in ride systems there. Also, at one point in the ride, you like go right next to a mirror where the tires on the left side of your car turn orange, and then it shows up in the mirror, so it looks like you're dueling another train. And watching the POV for years before riding this attraction, I was like, wow, that's one of the best effects on the ride. But for my first ride in the front row, I sat on the right side, and I didn't even notice it. I'm not even gonna lie. Like, that's kind of crazy. Like, in the front row, I didn't even notice that effect, so that's a downside. In row 3 on my second ride, I noticed it because I actively realized that I missed it. So I was paying attention to that, and you can really tell that your tire turns orange, which kind of ruins the effect, but yeah, it's fine. And the other projections are okay. Disney's definitely gotten better at them. But it's just such a fun ride, and watching this thing at night under the canopy was so cool. So it's definitely a mixed bag, and it's very hard to rank as both a roller coaster fan and as a Disney fan, but I decided to put it here at number 4. Number 3 was also very hard to rank, and as you might guess, it is Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind. This ride is just pure fun. It is so much fun. It's a much longer ride experience than Tron. I got to ride it in row 1, and I rode in the back row as well, and I think I rode towards the middle on my third ride. So I got to experience it 3 times, which is a lot more than most people. My only regret was riding in row 10 and not row 9, because I didn't realize that row 9 is technically the front row during the backwards launch because of the spinning ride vehicles, so I kind of messed that up. But hey, it's a reason to go back. And man, I got One Way or Another, I got Conga, and I got Everybody Wants to Rule the World. I feel like One Way or Another was by far the best fit for this layout. It just, because you're literally like chasing down the galactic villain, whatever, the Eternals dude, whatever his name is, I don't even care. But man, this ride, it's just pure fun. It's so much fun. Like, you get some light weightless moments, And wrapping around the moon is just so cool. And the other, like the galaxy prop or the Earth prop, like that's just so much fun. Plus the Guardians humor. I love the Epcot jokes. The Epcot jokes are amazing, especially as someone who is not the biggest Epcot fan. Like the way the Guardians made fun of it, or the way Peter Quill was talking about how he was excited to experience attractions that have been long gone since the park has changed so much. Like that's just amazing. Like as a Disney fan, as a theme park history nerd, as a theme park nerd, it was just top tier, man. That's amazing stuff. It truly felt like a modern Space Mountain. Like it's just so much fun. And some of the projection screens were just absolutely huge. I feel like the projections were really well done as well. Plus the fact that they used practical effects, and it kind of feels like they started with giant projection screens and then they moved towards practical effects. So it kind of felt like the ride got better and better. And the layout was just so much fun. So I feel like this is definitely better than Tron. And I feel like out of all the newest rides, Guardians and Tron are the hardest to compare to everything else. Like they're pretty easy to compare to one another. Like I'm definitely a Cosmic Rewind person. I will take Cosmic Rewind over Tron any day. But comparing these rides to Runaway Railway and Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run or Remy's Ratatouille Adventure, you know, that's difficult. But I landed on number 3 because number 2 is one of my favorite rides of all time. I talked about it earlier, but it is Avatar Flight of Passage. Dude, this just hits different. Like, I don't even know. Like, I can't even put it into words. Flight of Passage, for a long time, it was just like the GOAT, you know? I first rode the attraction in 2018. I then got to ride it in 2020, 2021, and most recently in 2023. It's just an emotional experience. Like, I can't even describe it. Like, you just have to experience it, man. It's truly magical. Like, it's hands down the greatest simulator I've ever been on. The music, it's just beautiful. I struggle to put it into words because it's just a euphoric experience that you have to have. This is one of the greatest rides of all time. In 2023, I did kind of notice a couple flaws or problems that I have with it, which is kind of a shame. Most people only get to experience this ride once on their vacation, so I kind of let it slide because I'm starting to nitpick the ride because I've been on it so many times. But this is truly one of the greatest experiences you can ever have as a theme park fan. Flight of Passage is amazing. It's breathtaking. It's spectacular. And I'm almost kind of glad that we don't have it here in California because I would ride it so much and then I'd probably get tired of it. Dude, it just hits different when you only get to ride it like once every few years. It's an incredible ride experience. But comparing Flight of Passage to number 1, which as you might have guessed is Rise of the Resistance, is very difficult for me because Rise of the Resistance is also cloned here at Disneyland. So I ride Rise of the Resistance all the time. I rode it 19 times in both 2022 and 19 times in 2023, which was actually a total coincidence. So almost 40 times in 2 years. So I know this ride so well. I know it like the back of my hand. I ride it as much as I can, and it's hands down one of the greatest ride experiences of all time. But because I ride it so much, I am a little jaded towards it. Like, I'll never forget the first time I rode it. I was floored, dude. I didn't even watch a POV, and I was wowed. Like, I just remember getting so excited seeing the AT-ATs for the first time. Just moving into that room when you get spotted by the stormtroopers, and then the music kicks in, and then you escape into that room, and you just see how massive those props are. It's just, it gave me chills. It is spectacular. But now I ride it and I'm like, you know, it doesn't hit like that anymore because I ride it so much, you know, compared to Flight of Passage where I only rode it once in 2023. I think I only rode it once or twice in 2022. 2020 was the big year where I got to ride it 3 times. And 2018, I also rode it once. So for a little bit, the only experience I had on Flight of Passage was my one ride in 2018. And now I've been on Rise of the Resistance a lot. It's probably close to 50 times now. I'm not sure if I kept track because I know I rode it 3 times at Disneyland before the park closed for the pandemic. So I had 3 rides compared to the 1 ride in 2018 to go off of. So anyway, it's an insane ride experience. There's 3 pre-shows. Like, there's no other ride on Earth that has 3 pre-shows like Rise of the Resistance. And one of them is like a mini Star Tours. Like, that's insane. That's crazy. It's wildly impressive. This ride, you have 3 pre-shows, you got an innovative trackless ride system that takes you up an elevator, and then it also like puts you in a drop tower, but that drop tower is also a simulator, so you drop and then the simulator, it's like basically Star Tours while you're inside a trackless ride vehicle. Like, they combined so many different ride systems, so many different effects. It's truly peak Disney. It's incredible. It's an absolutely wild ride experience, and as you might imagine, is identical, the version at Disneyland and the version at Hollywood Studios. So yeah, it's just amazing, and I feel like obligated to put it at number one pretty much. So it was very hard to compare Rise of the Resistance and Flight of Passage to both each other and to the two roller coasters at number 3 and number 4. So overall, Walt Disney World has gotten some incredible attractions over the last few years, especially with that top 4. But man, I'm excited to see how newer attractions will rank on this list, because Disney World's been on a roll, man. And as a Disneyland fanboy, I'm a little jealous, but you know, I'm also glad that Disney World and Disneyland are developing separately, so they have their differences. So yeah, that's how I rank the 10 newest rides at Walt Disney World. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know in the comments below. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I will catch you later.